A Trump-era US report has warned that human rights in the UK have worsened over the past year. It criticises restrictions on freedom of expression, citing government crackdowns on political speech, online posts and protests, including controversial buffer zones around abortion clinics. US officials say silencing ordinary Britons risks fueling division. The UK government defended its actions, saying free speech is vital while keeping citizens safe. To discuss this, I'm now joined by barrister and legal counsel for ADF International, Lorcan Price. Lorcan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josh.
I know your parents are watching, very proud. This is the big moment.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not telling. He's here.
They're big fans.
So this report came out this week. This is a report that America does for all countries, right? It's not that they were like, we're going to... I know they are particularly interested, seemingly, in free speech within the UK, but this is a human rights report that they put out, and it covers also a comprehensive list of all human rights. So when you read it, it's not just focused on free speech, it's also slavery, children's rights, and workers' rights and whatnot. But obviously the bit that we're focusing in is free speech. And in that element, it's not looking good for the UK. No,
it's not. And the interesting thing about this report, as you say, is that this isn't the first time they've issued it. This is a long-standing practice of the State Department. It's the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labour. And normally, the UK section, as you can imagine, is fairly adenine. There's nothing particularly exciting there. It's usually, because it's such close allies, it recognises that human rights are upheld in the UK and so on. But this time it's different. They have zeroed in on the free speech crisis that we have in this country. And I think this is to be expected. I mean, we've already seen Vice President Vance use a major speech at the Munich Security Conference to criticise what he saw as the gap that's opening up between the United States and its allies on freedom of expression. And there's a particular interest in the UK in the United States, and that makes sense as well because there's such a long-standing close relationship. We share a lot of strategic interests, and the fact of the matter is that this is the country that gave the world the common law, Magna Carta, and these traditions that the US was founded on, quite frankly. And to see where we've ended up now with people being arrested for tweets, people being arrested for praying silently in their head, people being arrested for preaching the gospel. I mean, you're well aware, particularly on this show, of the state of affairs that we find ourselves in. That's quite distressing for a lot of senior American policymakers. And I've spoken to them. I spoke to the ambassador here. I've spoken to officials from the State Department, and they're shocked at what they're reading, at what's going on here in the UK. Do you think the UK government would look at this report and it would be a wake-up call for them, or do you think that they're... You're smiling there, suggesting that they wouldn't be that bothered? Well, what we've seen from the government, this isn't the first time the senior officials in the US have criticised what's happening in this country. Of course, J.D. Vance, it doesn't get more senior than the Vice President, and the President have noted this. And the response from David Lammy and from the Prime Minister has been essentially, well, we protect free speech here, and that's it. So it's a kind of a stock response to any criticism, which is that, no, we protect free speech here. Let's move on. And I don't think, frankly, that it's in... This government does not have a commitment to free speech, as far as I can see. Now, they've inherited a lot of bad laws that were passed under previous governments, so it's not entirely their fault. But there seems to be no effort to do anything other than plough ahead with ever more enforcement, ever more restrictions. And I just, for whatever reason, the criticisms from the United States, which is one of our closest and oldest allies, don't seem to be landing. And I think that's disappointing. Yeah, the other part of the report that was quite extensive, if you're reading through to the bottom, they had a large section on anti-Semitism, which was disturbing, talking about massive increases that we've seen within the UK post-October 7th. That also, you would hope, would be a wake-up call to the government to see that kind of increase. Of course, it's been around the world, including in America. Do you think that do you see that problem? Does that concern you, or are you focused more on you're the barrister for the organisation that you're part of? Sure. No, I mean, it's important to keep a track on all the issues in relation to free speech and how it impacts people. And of course, the difficulty is where people expressing, using their expressive rights, their freedom of speech rights, then tips over into discrimination against religious groups, whether they be Christians or Jews or Muslims. And that's something that is a line we have to be aware of, because while we want a society where there's a maximum amount of free speech, it can't then translate into violence, intimidation, harassment and things like that. And I think we recognise that there has always historically in this country been a clear line in the law between offences that involve inciting violence against somebody or harassing them, and then just general criticisms, whether it's of Islam or of Christianity or of Israel and so on, which are permitted. And we do have to be aware of where a conduct steps over the line. But when it comes to incitement to hatred, this is where the problem really starts, because it's impossible to really define tightly what constitutes hatred and whether or not legitimate criticisms of things that are happening in different countries or even happening in our own country constitute hatred against any particular group.
Absolutely. It's a slippery slope. We've seen with one of the cases a bit of a victory where is it the grandmother? She's a grandmother, is that
yes,
right?
Yes.
Is it Rose
Doherty in
Rose
Scotland?
Doherty.
Yeah.
So she is now... They're not pursuing it, is that correct?
That's correct. So Rose stood near the Glasgow Royal Infirmary holding a sign saying, "Coercion is a crime, here to talk."
This is the sign,
yeah, and so she wasn't interacting with anybody, harassing anybody, obstructing
This
anybody.
isn't one of the buffer zones.
This is within one of the buffer zones, and for that she was arrested, handcuffed and detained and brought to a police station, and she was threatened then with prosecution. Now they have, her legal team, and I've been involved in this, have extracted from the prosecution service there, the Prosecutor Fiscal in Scotland, a letter where they've said they're not going to proceed with a prosecution this time. However, they've left the door open in the future if they wish to proceed. So the notion that we've gotten to a point where a 74-year-old lady holding a sign offering to talk to people is a criminal is exactly the type of thing that our American friends are pointing out. That is a serious infringement.
Although other people will argue that holding a sign saying "I support Palestine action," and those people have been arrested as well. So we see this across the board.
Sure.
But anyway.
Rose, of course, is not advocating for any particular group. No. Yeah.